You had a cousin entering the picture for the first time the last year. Or was it a...
Yeah, well, I was always looking for my brother. And we had a 5-parter in which I find my brother. And the first thing I find is my nephew, my brother's son. And he leads me to my brother. But no, I don't think they were looking for a successor. I think they knew the thing was a dead issue. And I don't think they had any idea how much of a thing they had a hold of either. You know, they didn't even bother to offer it into syndication for about 3 years. They just let it sit. Then they finally put a little ad in the Variety, I think. And suddenly it was being shown all over the world. But I really don't think anybody, even myself, had any idea how big a thing it was and how maybe eternal the things were. I would say Jerry Thorpe, who was the director-producer that hired me after seeing me in the play in New York.
Yes.
I'd say he knew. I don't know how he knew, but he knew to hire me. He knew it was going to work. He never had any doubts about it. And he would stand up to the network. They'd tell him they want to change it around somehow. And he'd say, well, you fire me then, because I'm not going to do it. And exhibited an enormous amount of courage. Hiring me was very courageous, because I was not very popular in the industry. And for all he knew, I was going to be a lot of trouble. And he wanted that, actually. He wanted to hire somebody who wouldn't back down, because that's what the character needed. And if he hired somebody that was just, you know, somebody to get on his little motor scooter and go around to offices and part his hair just right, it wouldn't have worked. He needed somebody who was completely rebellious. That's what he got. And in the process, the 3 or 4 years that I did it, I became a kind of a different person. There's no doubt about it. I'm not saying I lost my sense of rebellion, but I lost my sense of aggressiveness, hostility.
You came into the series with aggression and hostility, didn't you?
Yeah, a lot of it.
The people you were working with? There's a fellow named David Chow who coached you through a lot of that work, the kung fu scenes. Did you already know kung fu or karate? Were you?
I heard the word twice before. Once from a choreographer in New York, I did a musical there, and once from a guy named Tommy Sands. I just heard the word twice. I didn't see any of it or anything. I just heard the word. That was it. And I didn't know anything about karate.
Some say you were spearheading the industry. The Bruce Lee films came out after that. Enter the Dragon took in $25 million with Bruce Lee, and all this kung fu stuff probably came after your kung fu series.
Well, Bruce actually went to China because he didn't get that role.
The kung fu role?
Yeah.
He went to Run Run Shaw.
He tried to get, he wanted to do the series Kung Fu, and they didn't hire him. And he said to himself, well, if I can't get this part, what am I doing in Hollywood?
Actually,
so he went to Hong Kong.
He was a TV actor before that. I think he was in Green Hornet.
Right.
Kato, he played. Later you played with Bruce Lee's son in the remake.
Yeah.
How was it working with him? Was there a
Well, he was a good kid. He did not have the fire that Bruce had. I think his knowledge of martial arts, which was considerable, the kid was really good, but I don't think he really loved it like Bruce loved it. He just, you know, it was kind of natural that he should move into it. And at the beginning, he actually didn't want to do it. He didn't want to be identified with martial arts. He just wanted to be an actor. And but he did do a screen test with me, and I did it with him and a couple of other people. And I think during the screen test, he decided he wanted to do it with me. I think because of me, because I have a way, you know, of opening the curiosity and the, you know, the learning thing. And once we'd finished doing our little scene together, suddenly he wanted to do it in the worst way. And then he started campaigning for it. And, you know, we went to a lot of thought because at the beginning his acting wasn't too good and his martial arts weren't that great. And we decided to go with him anyway. There was something about him, but I can't define what it was, but there was something. And I thought he was going to try really hard. And he did. He went and studied and studied and studied. And his acting and his martial arts went up a great deal. By the time we did the show, he was pretty great.
So you're describing in yourself almost a directorial attribute. Is it through your own knowledge or your own openness? Because you've described your own technique as emptying yourself to take a role in. How can you get someone else to act in a certain way, to find themselves, unless you know how to direct them, in a sense?
Well, I guess there's some of that. To a certain extent, I just pull them in. And I give them you might call it a facade that they can come through. They can break through. And they want to find out what's inside it. And once they get inside, they're mine. But, you know, I was one of the producers of that show. And I hired the director, and I created the story. And I think it was really quite natural that I would kind of choreograph it more than direct it. I don't mean choreograph the fight scenes, but choreograph the hiring and the way the shoot would go. And I was doing a picture in the Philippines called POW, The Escape.
You played Colonel Cooper.
Yeah. And that was during the pre-production, when I should have been there. And it would have been more like what I wanted probably if I had been there. But to try to make up for that, I put people who knew. I hired a director who had done, 15 maybe of the original Kung Fus, and who was the guy who understood me the most of all the directors that we had. And did a few things like that, so that when I went away to the Philippines, I didn't leave just a studio trying to put something together out of nowhere. But I didn't have enough control of it to make it really go through the roof. I think of it as the dark Kung Fu. I think it worked, and it was beautiful, and it was instructive and all that stuff that it's supposed to be. But it was dark. It was
largely shot indoors, actually.
Well, not really, but it was largely shot at night. And I thought it was correct that after so many years' absence that you should see this dark one. And then it should result in a light one. And I think it will.
So the next one should be a light one?
I hope so. Bright sunlight, the Yangtze River, the Forbidden City, the Great Wall. It should be okay. Can we talk about something else besides Kung Fu?
I'd love to. I think we're just about to, actually. You did a lot of other TV credits in the late 70s, besides the action-adventure things you're describing. There was Mr. Horn, Oceans of Fire, Armed Response, Six Against the Rock. Excellent video play, I understood. What is it that constantly draws you back to television, besides the extensive film career you have?
I'm not really necessarily drawn to television. I've always felt that I wanted to go a certain way, which was to do everything. You know, there are certain film actors who do a movie, let's say, once every 2 years, and it's a great starring role, and that's all they do. And I always thought that, I mean, I like to work, and I couldn't stand sitting around and doing one movie every 2 years. So I thought, if I pursue several careers at once, I can work all the time, which is what I want to do. So I pursue a kind of a movie star career, and I pursue a supporting actor career.